Hi, it's Dr. Myers here, and I want to introduce you to Fred if you haven't already been here. And I'm going to let you watch me build a graph uh, that's actually in the bonus for Module 15A. And you can see that bonus if you so choose once Module 15A becomes available to you. Now, when you see it, you will have already completed a graph in Fred in Module 11. So I'm not going to go through all the very basics because you've already done it. Now, what I want to do is talk about the example that is in the bonus. And the example is, how is M2, or money supply, related to inflation? And you can see right here on the front page that we've got inflation and CPI and M2 all available. Well, I'm going to build inflation not by picking one of these values, but I'm going to go to CPI, and I'm going to avoid the sticky consumer price index here for uh, kind of important reasons. And then I'm going to go down to the consumer price index for all urban consumers. And I notice there's two formats that I can pick up here. And notice that on these, they're both not seasonally adjusted, although the one here is seasonally adjusted. That makes a difference. It also tells us when the last update was, September 11th. I'm recording this on September 19th. And this semi-annual index and monthly index uh, that are not seasonally adjusted, it goes all the way back to January of 1913. It's kind of interesting. Well, I'm going to pick the seasonally adjusted amount for consumer price index. And by clicking on it, I have a graph. And this graph is, as I said, seasonally adjusted. And anytime you do a graph, if you scroll down, it's going to tell you notes about every variable in your model. There's only one here, so of course it's here. It's from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. It's reduced or released in the Consumer Price Index. You can click there and see the release. Okay. How is inflation related to money supply? Well, we need to add money supply. So let's edit the graph, add a line. Now I want to search for, I know I want to use M2. So now we have a number of sources here of M2. In fact, you can look down, there are a ton of them. But I want to use this one because it's also monthly, it's seasonally adjusted, and it goes back to 1959 all the way to present day. Present day here, because of the release dates, is July of '01. All right, so we're going to click on that. We're going to add the data series, and it appears that nothing happens. I see my consumer price index, but it's way down here that I see, and I can't even barely pick it up, the money supply M2. So I'm going to go back to edit graph again. I didn't have to leave this, but I did. And I'm going to go to format, and I'm going to go down to line number 2, which is M2. See, it tells you right there. And I'm going to put it on the right axis. As soon as I did that, notice what happened. Now you can see both series. One's being measured on the left-hand axis, one's being measured on the right-hand axis. Now, because I want to deal with solid lines and I want to dictate the color, because that's what's in the example, I want to change, we're working on the M2 line, which is the dotted green line. I want to change it to a solid, and I want to change the color to red. Uh, no, I don't. That's money. I want the money to be green. All right, so we'll just leave that. Money is green, right? So we're going to close that out. And now I have a solid green line for money. Well, let's go up here and customize line one, which is the consumer price index. Already a solid line. It's on the left-hand axis. And I'm going to make this one the red one. Okay, so inflation, that's bad. We're going to put it in red. But what you're looking at is not inflation, nor is it the growth in money supply. It's levels. What is the level of inflation? It's hard to tell anything from this graph. So what I want to do, based upon our quantity theory of money, where MV equals PQ, uh, where in that formula, M is going to be here, money supply. We're going to use M2. V is velocity, which we've not talked about, at least in this example. And multiplying those together, it's like how much money you have, how often does it turn over? That's equal to P times Q. Well, Q is the real GDP and P is the price level. Oh, where's the price level come from? Consumer price index. All right, so that's where we are. And we want to use that formula to talk about how does the rate of growth of money supply equal to the rate of growth of inflation, or what the percentage inflation rate happens to be, rate of growth in prices. Okay, so I want to go back to edit my lines. And notice here in a consumer price index, it is on a unit basis. Frequency's monthly. And I'm going to change this to percentage change from a year ago. And it did it, just like that. And then I'm going to go down to, or find line 2, go up here and choose line 2. And I want to give it the same frequency, percentage change from a year ago. Okay, so now I have my graph that I want to display and will display. But there's a couple more things I want to do about this. First off, I'm not interested in anything for this discussion before about 1968. So we're just going to go ahead and take that out by changing to 1968. It's a monthly series, so it's going to require me to pick a month. I don't really care. I'm going to pick January. So now our graph is from January 1968 to present. And I notice some things. I notice some very big peaks, 3 of them, and a couple smaller ones. But those 3 peaks, this was the high inflation level back in 1974 and again to 1980. In fact, inflation from that over this whole time period where I'm moving the graph is over 5% inflation. That's bad enough, but you can see how high it's gotten. I want to focus on that area. Let's look at 1968 to, let's say about 1990. Again, choose a month. I don't really care for this example. Now we're looking at ancient history, right? The peaks of money supply are standing out, or the consumer price index, the inflation is standing out. But look what happens just a little bit before, maybe 12 months or more, those inflationary peaks. We have money supply peaks. Putting money into the economy, printing money, is inflationary. So in the 70s, we put a lot of money into the early 70s. We put a lot of money into the marketplace, and we ended up with rising inflation. In fact, you can see here where we started going up this path. And while we were going up this path, inflation was going down, but we kept putting money into the system, and at some point, like right here, we watch money or inflation as a result of that uptick in money supply just start increasing. Okay, now why did it come down? Look at the money supply, and this is part of what you will read about in monetary history. But let's go and look, here we go again. So it was only because of a recession that we had so little money in the system. And as that money built coming out of the recession, what happened to inflation? Well, starting about right here, watch the red line, and we keep on going up to our peak. And then we come out to this next peak out here past the 80s, because in the 1980s, you're going to read about the Volcker effect, and that's really what happened there. All right, so here is our peak, and I'm watching my inflation. When am I getting inflation? When am I getting inflation? I'm not. I'm not. Why is that? Well, it's a puzzle. In 1987, we had a crash, stock market crash. In fact, it was as severe as 1929, at which time we went into a depression. Where's our depression? We don't have one. Where's our recession? We don't have one. But I know in 1987, the stock market crashed. Why don't we? Because the Fed promised to give us as much money as we needed to get out of it. All right, enough of that. Let's go on to the next period, and let's make the next period about 1990. I don't care which month. And we're going to go out to pre-pandemic level. In fact, well, let's even go well before the pandemic. Let's go to 2016. I'll go to the end of the year. Now, what do we see? We see a lot of changes in money supply. We see consumer prices high during this recession. But what is high? 4.66%, nothing like we saw before. Here we are at about a 3% line, and you will have undoubtedly learned by now um, that 2% is our target inflation. All right, so down here around 2.5 and less. So we haven't hit target inflation at all through here, but it is, let's say, moderate throughout all this time period. Now, what happens to the money supply? It's fairly stable, and then we hit the financial crisis of 2008. But I don't see anything through here that just, says, hey, let's do some lessons on what's going on in economics. There was a lot of things going on, but it wasn't just money supply and inflation. Okay? So let's go to 2016 on our beginning. And again, let's take January, and then let's go to current day, 2025, and it looks like August is our last month we can get. Now, what do we see? Now, you have to understand the scales here relative to the time period. So what may look like a really big hill in the last graph really wasn't that big. It was down, our biggest hill was like 4%. Now we're up to 8.99%. Hey, call it 9% inflation during that month, but very high inflation. And what do we see ahead of time? Money supply increased. And this was the pandemic recession. And we spent money like crazy. In fact, your Module 11 experience is to go through the graphics of excess government expenditure. There it is. Because we didn't get excess taxes coming in, we didn't cut any other spending. We just printed money. And you can see here all the money we printed, and then the consequence, inflation. And now we see that coming back down and kind of leveling off. And in fact, our inflation rate here, 2.9, actually one of the best inflation rates, except here back in this period of time where we're under 2% a lot. This being the first Trump administration, now we're in the Biden administration, and now here at the very, very end of this graph, we're starting to get to the new Trump administration. Okay, what's all this about? Let's go back to 1968. Again, I don't really care which month. We'll pick January. This is the graph that is in your example. And it's told to you because the bonus requires that you have two series, that you have a question or problem that you're trying to solve, and that one series causes, or at least is strongly correlated with another series. Can you put three series on the graph? Sure, but the requirement is you have to do a multi-series graph. Well, here it is. Well, how do I get it into the bonus, into the Word document that is the bonus? Well, notice I've got some things here. Under Account Tools, I can save this graph, and I will after I finish this uh, discussion. I'll do that. I can share the graph. This is what you don't want to use. Or if you do use it, just so you can get the picture in there, you have a graph image link. Okay. Always give me the custom graph link. So I'm going to click on that. And here it is. Now I've got to answer a question before I get this. Always chart from 1968 to the last value available. Yeah, I like that. Or that you can see the third one here is always give me exactly the same chart no matter how many years later I ask for it. I'm going to take number one. I'm going to go right here and copy the link, or I can do this, copy the graph link, and now I am ready to paste in the bonus. Now I paused for a second and I actually did do what I told you. That is, I took that over there and I used the custom graph link so that anybody, you, the student, reading that bonus, can click on that link and come out here and see exactly how this graph is constructed and actually edit that graph if you want to make some changes, like you've seen me do. Want to change the line to blue? Then go right ahead. Now, how do I get this picture in? Well, that's a question, isn't it? So I'll tell you what I do, because it's very convenient. I brought up the Windows snipping tool, and you can see here it says press Windows logo key plus Shift plus S to start a snip. Well, I didn't do it that way because I have it on I hit a icon on the control bar, but somewhere in your computer there's the ability to do a screenshot. And in this case, the snipping tool, notice screen went dark. There's a control panel on the other side that is asking how I want to do this. And I want to take an image, just a picture. And I'm going to highlight that. I'm going to try to cut it in pretty good, not cut any edges off or whatever. Make a good looking picture. And there's the snipping tool with my graph already in it. So this is what I do. And you can do something similar. You use the same program, if you will, or you can use some other screen capture ability and then cut and paste it into the document. Well, anyway, this has gone long enough. I hope this video has helped. And if it has, maybe you'll do better on the bonus. And most importantly, you'll do really, really well in Module 15A. Talk to you later.